Suplifters. Today I want to talk about a sentence that I thought about today while I was training, since I had a pretty bad lifting session. And what I wrote down is a session is not a session. A session is not a session. It's more as well as less. Yeah, it's pretty cryptic, it's pretty dogmatic, but it does make sense to me, and I'm going to explain to you why it is a sentence that actually makes sense, although it could have some refinement, so I think the video title will be slightly different. So, what I'm saying is, you should consider your session just as a single session, and as something much more important than just a single session, while reminding yourself that after all it is just a single session. So we need to give weight to your training session in 3 different ways, okay? Let's start from the first way, which is a training session is not just a session. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you treat every single session as if it is just a session, you understand that it doesn't really make sense. You can just skip it. Just skip it, it's just a session, okay? However, this mentality can be extremely damaging because you can of course understand that if every single session isn't that important, we can skip them. And if we start skipping them, we lose tonnage, we lose quality moments in order to build more strength, more muscle. And the more we skip, the more we aren't able to progress, we are just gonna get frustrated, and you're gonna say, yeah, lifting doesn't work, my body doesn't respond to training. And what I mean by a session, I don't mean a day, okay? I do train every day, but you probably have a program which has less than 7 working days, most likely. So I'm only talking about days in which you're supposed to train. So this is your first thought, okay? Which is something that we do understand, okay? Which is that the session is just a session, so we can skip it, and it is wrong. We then have our second way of thinking, which is a session is much more than a session. Because every single session is so important that you cannot skip it. You can skip it and you start putting your lifting before everything else in life. And that is also a toxic mindset, because if you skip it and you think that it is so important for your muscle growth to skip that single session, that is gonna be a mess, okay? You just skipped, now your lifts aren't gonna go up, you're gonna become paranoid towards the way that the session went. But you aren't also seeing the big picture, which is that you hit 30 sessions out of 31, so who cares if you just lost one? But you don't understand this concept yet. So you're thinking that the whole month is ruined, everything is gone, and this is a mentality that not a lot of people actually have. So I understand that might sound strange, but I am almost like that. And it's something that I kind of need to change, although it's hard since I decided to start the Train Everyday series, which the whole point of it is just to train every single day. So for me, it's a little bit more than just a session, you know. It's something that I need to do every single day religiously. But when we go on, we move on, okay? We understood our first 2 ways, which are a session is just a session, so who cares? A session is much more than a session, so we must hit every single one, because if we lose sessions, the whole picture doesn't make sense, okay? And now we're gonna understand the last point, which is that a session is more as well as less, because both of these point of views are right, and they are both wrong. And this is why it's really important to discuss these topics. So, what do I mean by that? Let's think of an image which has a lot of pixels. Actually, not a lot of pixels, sorry. Let's say that it is an image of like 10 by 10, okay? We have 10 blocks, okay? We understand that and every single block represents a training session, it's pretty important to be said. We understand that if we skip sporadically a lot of sessions and we start painting them, okay, in black, you will see that there is still gonna be a lot of white in this 10 by 10 picture, okay? And your task in theory is to be able to paint everything black because you don't wanna skip sessions. So this is the picture that we are gonna have, where we have some training sessions that we hit and a lot that we missed because training sessions aren't that important. And this is the result that we get However, now let's think of the opposite way, as I said. So somebody who says that a session is more than a session, and all of the sessions need to be linked to one another, otherwise they're gonna lose their own individual value. This is the picture that we're gonna get. It's perfectly black, everything is black, okay? So did this guy did a better job? Well, yes, I would say that he did. But we also need to understand that he must have sacrificed something. He must have sacrificed something. If he did every single session perfectly, and I mean perfectly, every single rep, every single set, everything nailed down. I am not like this. If you think about it, last Saturday I just did deadlifts. I pretty much skipped all of the rest of the training session. Sometimes I skip exercises here and there because I don't feel like I'm strong enough in the single session. Okay, so I'm more in the next example, okay? So this guy, of course, did a perfect job, but most likely he's gonna end up being stressed from it, he's gonna feel burned out from it, and he needs to understand that he can actually take a step back. But only if you are in this example. Most likely you're gonna be in the first example. We then have our third example, where this guy tries to hit as many sessions as he can, although sometimes things aren't going as well. What do we do then? We paint it gray. And now everything starts to make sense, okay? Because those gray sessions are where you weren't feeling it, where you actually went out for lunch with friends, so you felt extremely bloated and you didn't really feel like doing, I don't know, a lot of pull-ups with a lot of weight in your stomach, but you did, I don't know, your biceps in that day. So we must find a healthy balance where we understand that sessions are important and we need to hit them as much as we can, but we don't need to stress so much if we can't have the perfect workout, or if somewhere you're gonna skip it, okay? Just for the sake of the argument, I'm gonna put one last session, which is what I hope you are gonna become, because it's the healthiest way, in my opinion, of living lifting, which is using black, white and gray, having a mix of everything, and this is what it's gonna look like. That is what you should strive to be, okay? I need you to be as consistent as you can, but don't put lifting in front of everything. Put it in front of a lot of things, okay? Your friends can wait, okay? If they go out at 9 and you didn't have time to train, you can definitely train for at least like half an hour of training sets, because you should always warm up. They can wait. And it is a sacrifice that you are making. But on the other hand, you aren't just saying, no guys, sorry, I'm just gonna stay at home, I need to lift, or I'm just gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna lift. Because that is toxic and it's gonna actually make you hate lifting, and we must love what we do. Because we started because we wanted to change ourselves, and then hopefully you slowly started falling in love with the sport, falling in love with lifting in general. So we must keep it as sustainable as possible. So understand, as I said, and I'm gonna read it from what I wrote down, that a session is not just a session, it's much more as well as less. The last thing that I want to say is, why do I say that a single session is much more than a single session? Because we love this, okay? We love this, we like lifting, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. So for me, it is usually a sacrifice to having a suboptimal training session because I wanted to do something else. But I also understand, as I said, that some days can be gray. They don't need to be all black. Some days can be gray. Some days can even be white. Some days can even be white. If I had 40 degrees of fever and I felt like I was gonna die, I probably am not gonna train, you know. And that is gonna be totally fine, because I know I'm gonna jump back. So who cares if I lost 1 or 2 sessions of quality tonnage, since you're gonna have to catch up to it? Who cares? Who cares, really? Keep it sustainable. Keep it for as long as you can. That is the message that I wanna get you across as much as you can. So get your lifting sessions in. Don't over stress about them. And if you can't get them black, at least get them gray. See you guys in the next video.